Hi, I'm Perry Atkinson, General Manager here at theDove. Hey, check out our other videos and check out our website at thedove.us. Welcome to Focus Today. I'm your host, Perry Atkinson. A delight as always to have with us Laurie Cardoza-Moore. She is the president and the founder of Proclaiming Justice to the Nations, and one wired up lady. And I love her spirit. She just returned from Israel, and we want to talk to her about that, where they're making a film over there. Hi, Laurie. Good to see you again.
Good morning, Perry. Good to be back.
Great to see you. Well, listen, you were there, and first of all, tell us about your new film project.
Oh, absolutely. Well, you know, the whole boycott, divestment, and sanctions movement is really starting to heat up here in the United States. It's always been a problem, or it's been a growing problem over the last 10 years in Europe. But because we're seeing this growing movement here in the West, we decided it's time to take this issue on. And you know me, Perry, I'm not going to back down from anything that's controversial. But, of course, we went to Israel to begin production of our next documentary film called Israel, the Apartheid State? ? And of course, we're producing this documentary for the millennial generation. Our goal is to start having a discussion and exposing what this whole boycott, divestment, and sanctions movement is really all about. And of course, there's a Supreme Court justice in Israel who recently called BDS political terrorism, and I completely agree. Of course, I would add the word that it is also based in the age-old hatred of anti-Semitism. It's an anti-Semitic movement. You know, we saw in Nazi Germany the boycotting of businesses. I look at what's happening today as a similar issue, although now it's happening on a global scale. It's companies, and sadly, Perry, it's even Christian churches who are divesting their funds from Israeli companies or businesses that do business with Israel to put economic pressure on Israel. And you know, we all know the scripture in Genesis 12:3, I will bless those who bless you and curse him who curses you. In the United States of America, if we don't address this issue and we confront it, we stand to risk also being affected economically, because a lot of the companies like Intel, Microsoft, Apple, Motorola, Caterpillar, a lot of these companies are U.S.-based companies that will be directly affected by this attempt to put pressure on Israel politically to back away from her ancient homeland. So we were excited to be able to go to Israel, and so we were on a mission in search of apartheid Israel. And it's interesting because, Perry, we did some great interviews. I spoke with 3 Arab Palestinians, and 2 of them live in Jericho. One lived in the Gaza area, and they work in the biblical heartland called Judea and Samaria. Of course, the world wants to term those regions the West Bank. And so I was able to speak with one gentleman who had been employed. He was a plant manager of an Israeli Jewish business. He had been there employed for 4 years. I spoke with another woman at another plant from Jericho. She's been employed by an Israeli business in Judea for 16 years. And then I met with a plant manager of this company who had been with the company 26 of the 30 years that they've been in business. So, of course, I said, so we hear that, you know, the Israeli government and the IDF doesn't treat the Arab Palestinians so nice. And so it was amazing to hear some of their responses. And I'm looking forward to finishing this project and sharing their story with the world, because one of the questions that we asked each one of them, if Israel has to give up this territory, this region, Judea and Samaria, how will that affect you individually? And they all said the same thing, that if Israel gave up that region, that the company, the Israeli company, would have to move and they would be out of work. The woman I interviewed said her family would die because there is no work in the Palestinian Authority. Of course, we know that the Palestinian Authority keeps its people oppressed and suppressed to continue to further its anti-Semitic attacks against Israel. And it was quite a story to hear these individuals, to speak with the owner and with these employees, them talking about how their companies, their bosses have picnics for Arab and Israeli employees. And I thought this was interesting because even during the holidays, these Jewish businesses would have celebrations for their Muslim employees. And so you have in these plants Arabs and Israelis working side by side. Even during the war last summer in Gaza, there was no friction going on in these plants. These people said the same thing. They just want to be able to work. They want to live in peace. They want to raise their families. So why isn't this story on the evening news, Perry? I want to know.
Let me ask you this. Most of these companies you named and others are publicly held. Who's putting the pressure on them to do this? I mean, is it within themselves? Can their stockholders counter what they're doing? Or is it coming from some other sources?
These are external forces, and a lot of them, as I stated initially, is coming out of, a lot of the pressure is coming out of Europe. In fact, there was a document that was released by the European Union leaders who were talking about putting pressure on Israel and pressuring by pressuring these companies that do business with these Israeli companies. So it's not the companies that are doing business there. They find, doing business with Israel is very profitable. It's good for their company. It's good for business. It's good for Israelis. And so it is. It's external. It's an attempt to put political pressure on Israel to make concessions. And, of course, a lot of it comes out of the United Nations. You have these world leaders who are calling on this initiative, this Boycott, Divestment and Sanctions effort. And, bottom line, it's an attempt to delegitimize Israel's right to exist. It's similar to the old anti-Semitism that we saw that was anti-Jewish, but now they've kind of morphed. And now the anti-Semitism is not just anti-Jewish, but it's anti-Israel and it's anti-Zionist as well. Its goal, of course, is the same, to delegitimize Israel's rights to her ancient homeland, ultimately to dehumanize the Jews. And one of the things that I found when I was in Israel last week, and we were filming these interviews, Israelis, we did a lot of press. We had a lot of press coverage while we were there, doing print, on camera, and radio media. And the response that we heard from Israelis was the same across the board. They could not believe that a Christian organization would be taking this issue on globally on their behalf, and how much they appreciated, and they wanted me to go back and tell Americans and tell our base of support Christians how much they appreciate us standing with them against this, to help them expose this effort. And so our goal with the documentary film is to have it completed in time for our annual event at the National Religious Broadcasters Convention. I know you'll be there, Perry. Of course, we'll showcase it there, we'll premiere it there, and then we will push for its global release again in over 200 countries, reaching over 900 million homes.
Now, you have taken this right to your own home state, got your legislature to do an initiative here, and I guess now 26 other states are looking at this as well?
Yeah, it's really surprising, and it's very exciting. We started out with this resolution to start educating not just the citizens of the state, but even our state legislature. Perry, we're seeing a growing number of university campuses that are hosting violent anti-Israel BDS demonstrations. And so we didn't have the problem in Tennessee, so we decided we're going to get out ahead of the curve. We're going to start educating our legislators so that they'll be aware of this, because really our universities are governed, it's the state legislature that oversees these these universities, these campuses. So we thought, okay, let's do this, and we'll launch a media campaign alongside of it, and we'll start educating citizens and parents across the country who are going to be putting their children in universities here across the state, and making them aware of the threats that are going on in a lot of universities, like in Florida, in New York, in California. And so, ironically, the Monday that I started to lobby for the passage of this resolution, that weekend before, there were two events, or there was one major event that happened on the college campus, on Vanderbilt University's campus, where the AE High building was spray painted with swastikas. Not only did they spray paint the swastikas on the outside of the building, but they also got inside the building, went down to the basement, and spray painted the swastika on one of the basement doors, essentially telling the Jewish students on Vanderbilt's campus, you're not safe in your fraternity house, you're not safe on the campus. And of course, it made it very easy for me to go in to meet with our legislators and ask them, did you hear what happened on the campus of Vanderbilt and this weekend? And they said yes. And I said, this resolution addresses that. We had overwhelming support. We had one dissenting vote. And now, as a result of what we did, Indiana was the second state to pick it up. They passed their resolution 2 days after ours. And now, as you stated, we have a total of 26 states on board. And of course, we have heard from yours truly, Oregon. So we're excited about working with you all, Perry, in pushing this resolution to start educating your state legislature as well as the citizens across the state to stand against this. And, we look at the numbers. There was a recent poll that stated, a Gallup poll, that stated 70% of Americans support Israel. But if you listen to the naysayers, if you listen to the BDS proponents, you would think that number is diminishing, that BDS is winning. It's not. Americans get it. Americans are not stupid. We understand a terrorist threat. We understand that Israel is facing a daily barrage of terrorist threats. When I was in Israel, just within the 9 days that we were there filming, we heard 3 incidents where people were run over by Palestinians, Jews, run over in the street, police officers and civilians. And I don't know if that made the news back here in the United States. I didn't see anything on the internet, but this is a daily occurrence. This is what Israelis have to contend with on a daily basis. Americans get that, because we wouldn't tolerate missiles raining down on our communities, and we wouldn't tolerate people just running people over in the street or trying to kill people or kidnapping our children and murdering them. Wow. It wouldn't happen.
Wow. Let me take a quick break here, Laurie. When we come back, I want you to also comment on just the overall climate there now, since you were just recently there. Give us a comment there. We'll be right back with Laurie Cardoza-Moore. And again, PJTN, is it .org or .com? What is it?
.org.
PJTN.org. We'll be right back. Okay, we're back, and delighted to have with us Laurie Cardoza-Moore. She's the founder and the president of Proclaiming Justice to the Nation. And by the way, her website is pjtn.org. Great resource. Get a copy of Israel Indivisible. You've got to have that one. And now she's in the makings of a follow-up to that, and it's an incredible story dealing with the whole subject of what they're calling BDS, which is Boycott, Divestment and Sanctions against Israel worldwide. And she's commenting on that. But Laurie, you're just there, and Netanyahu barely gets his government put back together after his election. The Middle East is exploding all over the place. Iraq's totally upside down now. What's your feel from being there?
Well, everything is, business as usual in Israel. And even though the world is raging against Israel and the pressure continues to build with all the enemies around her, I'm telling you, Israel is functioning and moving forward and is not skipping a beat. While we were there, I had the honor of presenting our Tennessee resolution, anti-BDS resolution, to the Speaker of the Knesset. I met with several Knesset members. We did interviews with them for the documentary exposing the BDS movement. And the sentiment there is, it's positive, it's upbeat. Interestingly enough, Harry, the foreign minister, Hotevly, Knesset member Hotevly, a woman, there was an article that came out last week after we returned, and she basically stated she had a conference call with over 100 members of the foreign ministry globally and told them we are to start making our case using the Bible, using our historic, biblical ancient rights to this region. That is very exciting. And the fact that it's coming from a woman is even more profound. So I'm excited to see what is going to happen with the Israel now making this argument for itself, because historical, archaeological evidence bears out Israel's right to her ancient biblical homeland, and of course the legal component. And as you well stated, encouraging your audience to go to our website at pjtn.org, order a copy of the Israel Indivisible documentary, and watch it, because we address all of these issues in that documentary film. It's very well put together. It's been nominated for 2 Emmys. We've won numerous awards for it. But the sentiment on the ground is Israelis are going to do what Israelis have to do to survive. And it encourages them to see Americans doing, especially Christians in America, coming to their defense, standing with them side by side, letting them know you're not alone. We are with you. God is with you. And that brings great encouragement and great relief to them. So it's important what we're doing. And, I spoke with one of the members of Knesset who is actually Ethiopian. And he shared his story, and we're going to be excited to share the story in the film. But he shared just briefly his story about how he was airlifted from Ethiopia with a total of 60,000 Ethiopian Jews and brought back to the land of Israel. Now, this man is full-fledged African, and he will tell you that Israel has given him the opportunity to be able to sit as a member of the Knesset in their parliament. He talked about how he was given an education. He came from a small village in Ethiopia where he lived in a hut with no running water. And he was brought into the the nation of Israel. He was educated by the Israeli government. He has health care through the Israeli government. It was just a profound story. And so we hear of the oppression of the Arabs, the Palestinians, and Perry, it's just not happening. Here you have an Ethiopian who is now a member of Knesset who talks about the advantage that the Israeli government gave to him and the opportunity they provided him to be in a place of leadership that he is today.
Laurie, during the campaign, Prime Minister Netanyahu kind of wavered on the two-state issue. Where is he now from your perspective?
Well, he has publicly come out stating that he wants to try to go back to the table with Abbas to discuss the two-state solution. But Perry, you know my position. There was a two-state solution. It was in 1948 when the world finally decided to carve out a little sliver of land so that the Jewish people could be put right back into their ancient homeland. And unfortunately, the Arabs are unwilling to honor that, even to this day.
Yeah, well, that continues to be the rub, no question about it. Are you getting back home in the United States, are you getting any more additional national attention on this BDS deal? I mean, are people of the Congress beginning to sense it?
Well, we do. It's interesting because Congress has introduced a bill that has gained bipartisan support. The state of Illinois has also introduced legislation that is slightly different from ours. It's to basically penalize any company that would boycott, divest, or sanction Israeli products or goods or businesses. So that's very positive. And of course, the United States has a long history of condemning this. There was an effort back in 1948 when Israel was first birthed as a nation, where the Arabs tried to boycott Israel, and it was unsuccessful. The United States government, Congress, has passed several laws reaffirming and protecting that our unique relationship and condemning boycott, divestment, and sanctions. So it's not a surprise that Congress is taking this issue back up again. Similarly, we look at the state of Illinois, and Illinois, I believe, went further in their language, where they stated specifically that there will be no boycotting of businesses anywhere in Israel, including Judea and Samaria. So that's very exciting to see that effort. And Tennessee will be taking that issue up in January 2016. We will also introduce that legislation, where ours is a resolution. The resolution that we introduced and that is now making its way through 26 states across the U.S. is an opportunity to educate our state legislatures and to also educate the citizens of our states about this growing threat, basically to kind of prime the pump or prepare for legislation to follow, where not only will Tennessee not support businesses that will boycott, divest, and sanction Israel or Israeli companies or companies that do business with Israel, but that we will also invest in Israeli ingenuity as well as a state through our pension fund. So it's very exciting to see what's happening, of course, with our efforts, with the resolution, with the state of Illinois and its legislation, as well as the federal government. These are all important initiatives. And then by February of 2016, we'll be launching this documentary globally to expose BDS as the latest anti-Semitic movement. And we'll get people educated across the country, specifically, of course, Christians.
Well, Laurie, you're a delight. Thank you again. I just want to say to our viewers and listeners, you can go to pjtn.org. It's an incredible website with just mounds of material there for you, and in particular, get a copy of Israel Indivisible. I think you'll find that to be, it's one of those tools you can play in your Sunday school class, in your Bible group, at your church on a Sunday evening or something. It is terrific. Thank you, Laurie. Look forward to seeing you soon, okay?
Thank you, Perry. God bless you guys.
God bless you. All right, we'll be right back.